This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, October 17. Hope your week is going well and your day started off pretty good. If not, let's get it headed in that direction. Jim Coyle with you. As always, here coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jake's at the wheel, keeping things on track. Big day today, of course. Thursday means it's the Indiana Sports Beat Reporters segment. On the program today, Dustin Schutte had to drop out, man, so we're looking for a replacement for Dustin today. But Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report is going to join us, bring us a Maryland perspective. Stefan, man. Stefan's going to have to pronounce his own last name. He's a good kid from getting some stuff done for the Indy Star right now. I made him tell me how to say it before, and I forgot, so I'm going to let Stefan take care of that. We'll see if we can get anybody filled in for Dustin along the way before we get to the reporter segment. Hopefully, if so, we'll just add them to that. But how's your day going? What's going on? I noticed that Congress thinks that they need to step into the NCAA likeness mess. Saw yesterday some reports that Mitt Romney, of all people, what the flying crap does Mitt Romney know about anything, much less NCAA athletes? Name, image, and likeness legislation has taken the NCAA by storm at the state level. We've seen California put a law into action. There are other states. South Carolina's drafting. I've seen Kentucky's got – there's just other states that are trying to get on that bandwagon. The thing is, I don't know that these people are doing any research. I'm not disagreeing that it should be done, but I think they need to slow their roll and know what they're doing. Know that how this is going to affect college athletics before they just throw this stuff out there. Yeah, the NCAA is a bunch of morons led by Muppet Mark Emmert who are always behind. Regardless, you can't just blow it up. Mitt Romney said Wednesday that national legislation is also on its way. Romney reassured student athletes that Congress was going to act to help them despite resistance to state legislation from the NCAA. Again, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, I guarantee you, he has done no research. He knows nothing about what he's talking about. Current NCAA rules forbid student athletes from profiting off of their name, likeness, or image in order to maintain eligibility as an amateur. You know something is seriously awry, Romney said, per the News and Observer in Charlotte. The reality is Congress is going to act. We're coming for you. We're coming to help these athletes. Idiot. He doesn't even know what an athlete is. Romney's comments came at a roundtable. Speaking of roundtables, we'll be having one of our own with former Duke standout and current ESPN analyst Jay Billis and Representative Mark Walker, Republican from North Carolina, who introduced a federal statute that would apply across every state, among others. Walker's Student Equity Act would bring above-board payments for name, image, and likeness to college athletes at the national level. All we're saying is allow these student athletes to have access to the free market like every other citizen does, Walker said, adding that the NCAA has refused to come to the table with lawmakers. Okay, see, now that's an issue. That's the NCAA, Muppet Mark Emmert and those morons sticking their head in the sand, acting like it's going to go away, holding their breath, stomping their feet, whatever. Now it's backfiring because they didn't get off their butts. They do nothing, and now they're going to send Condoleezza Rice in and form a committee. I'm making that up. Walker's bill introduced last spring would amend the definition of a qualified amateur sports organization in the tax code to remove the restriction on student athletes using or being compensated for use of their name, image, and likeness. The subject of NIL legislation recently resurfaced when Senate Bill 206 was passed in California by Governor Gavin Newsom on September 30th. Newsom's state bill will allow California-based college athletes to profit off of their name, image, and likeness beginning in 2023. The bill will not allow schools to start directly paying players, but rather will allow student athletes to pick up endorsements, sponsorships, or employment based on competing for the other school. Dozens of other states are considering similar legislation, and coaches like Mike Krzyzewski of Duke have added their names to a growing list of supporters for name, image, likeness bills for student athletes. The NCAA has a working group that is currently examining the topic and exploring ways to allow athletes to use their name, image, likeness while avoiding a pay-for-pay situation. The group is expected to put its formal recommendations for any legislation up for consideration at the end of the month, while the Board of Governors convenes in Atlanta. So there you go. There's where we are with that. What do you think? Hit us up on the text line. Jake, we've got to get this set up to where you can take calls off the text line. Should you just be able to open up the number?
I don't know. I'll have to research that. That might be a possibility.
Yeah, because we need to be able to take calls. It's the same number, 812-269-6367. You can hit us up on the text line. Should be the call line also. I think if you just open that up, and that it should work, right? We can't have that. Good Lord. XFL reports. We talked about T. Gray Scales going yesterday. Jay Sean Harris. He's also, I think it was a New York team he went to. Also, some Indiana basketball recruiting nugget of news. If I can get back to where I was. How about Jalen Washington? Remember that kid? He's a ways off, man. He's in the class of 2022. But he may be the best kid to come through Indiana in a minute. Better than Keon Brooks, Trace Jackson Davis, maybe even better than Christian Lander as well. The in-state class for 2021, that's a deep class. I've talked about that almost every day. The talent in that class, because we talked about Christian Lander possibly reclassifying to 2020 out of that class, which would solve a problem for Archie as far as the point guard. He could take up the scholarship that's currently available. Jalen Washington is one of the best players in the class of 2022. He showed why over the weekend at the USA Basketball minicamp. Rivals Eric Bossi named Washington as one of his underclassmen standouts at the event and talked a little bit about his development, saying, I first saw Jalen Washington back in April playing 15 under grassroots ball for Chicago-based Mean Streets and was struck by his size, length, and the skill he had. Since then, he's looking like he's grown a couple of inches, and he's more aggressive and has more confidence from added strength. The Gary native holds offers from Michigan State, Purdue, DePaul, Indiana, and most recently Iowa. Of course, Iowa has to offer every kid from Indiana. And he's ranked the seventh best player in that class. Number 7. That's higher than Christian Lander. That's higher than Keon Brooks. That's higher than Trace Jackson Davis. I'm trying to think. Let's start put your thinking cap on. Who is higher rated than that? Romeo was 6th. So offered by Indiana in June, Washington averaged over 12 points and 8 rebounds a game as a sophomore after missing most of his freshman season due to a shoulder injury. Bossy had this to say about Washington after watching him for the first time back in the spring. Washington is about 6'7", has skill, moves well, and has long arms. He doesn't force things and seems pretty comfortable on both ends of the floor. I don't know if he'll continue to grow like Kevin Looney did. Obviously he did. But I heard a few comparisons to him, and I can see that. No matter who he compares to, he's one whose development will be watched closely. It's still a long time before getting involved in the 2022 class, of course, but as I've talked about, this front court is going to go away. With Deron Davis will graduate, Joy Brunk will be gone, Justice Smith will be gone, and Trace Jackson Davis most likely will leave early after maybe 2 years, who knows. Their front court is slim. That would be a great addition. Great player. We'll see how that turns out. But keep an eye on that one, man. Jalen Washington. That would be, again, if I don't know that Archie's really done that great from a recruiting standpoint, but he's worked towards getting – he was behind in the beginning. I think he made mistakes of going after kids that he had no chance to get, that he just absolutely couldn't get, and he lost some kids because of that. But now he's trying to make that up and heading in a different direction. So we'll see if he can get that done. Coming up next, we've got the reporters segment. Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report is going to join us. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers will join us. And Stephen Krajisnik from the Indy Star. That's not how you say his last name, but I don't know how to. I can't. I laugh all the time. I can't. It's not, and it's not that it's that difficult. You have to remember how to say it because it does not say how it spells. Krzyzewski. Just start calling him Coach K. Stevie K from Indy Star is going to join us as well. Hey, we got a lot more coming up here. The reporter segment's coming up next here on Indiana Sports Beat. Stay tuned. We're back with that and more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after that. This, that, and the other thing.
Oh, it makes me feel good. Oh, do the mess around right long.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Cole.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, October 17. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. And now, get ready for the Indiana Sports Beat Reporters segment, joined by our good friend Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. Kevin, thank you, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing, man?
Yeah, hanging in there.
Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report, Rivals. Pat, how are you, brother? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, no problem. How are you?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. We appreciate you. And Stephen K., you get to say your last name, brother, because I'm not doing it the first time on air.
How's it going, Jim? I'm Stefan Kreisig in Nisar. How you doing, man?
Pretty good, brother. How you been?
Good, good.
Kreisig. Is that right?
Close enough, I guess.
No, not close enough. Say it one more time.
Kreisnig.
Kreisnig.
There it is. You'll get there. You'll get there.
That sounds Russian.
Serbian. Close enough.
That's right. That's right. Close enough. Close enough. But hey, Indiana taking on the Maryland Terrapins this week, and Maryland. And I'll start with Pat because he's with the Maryland Terrapin Sports Report. Maryland's been a team that's been kind of an enigma. When they first started the season, I was like, man, they got my attention because I'm like, wow. I know Indiana is one of those teams that's trying to break out of that bottom of the Big Ten East and get into that next upper echelon. And I was telling people, I'm like, man, you better watch out for Maryland. Look like they're trying to do the same thing here. They were beating people left and right. Then all of a sudden the thing kind of went off the tracks a little bit and just got a little worse, I saw, with DJ Turner getting a DUI. But, Pat, the season has taken a quick turn for Maryland.
Yeah, it definitely has. And, I mean, you said it. The hot start got everyone a little excited about the start of the Mike Locksley era and some of the talent they had on both sides of the ball. But I think we were quickly reminded once the dust settled a little bit that this is, a rebuilding team. And Coach Locksley even said it after practice yesterday that this is, very much a process and a rebuilding process. And this is just year one and step one of the process. So he needs to keep reminding, his team of that. And we kind of have, as media and the fan base, have had to remind themselves that, this team does still have a lot of building to do. And Coach Locksley and his staff haven't had a chance to, get multiple recruiting classes in there and really coach these guys up. So, we're hoping that in the future it looks more like it did in the beginning of this season. But right now, it certainly seems like those first 2 weeks were a far cry away.
Kevin, the first thing that I think Indiana's going to have to look at is who's going to start at quarterback for Maryland is who they have to prepare for. We've seen a couple different guys, Josh Jackson and Tyrell. How you say Pigrummy? How you say his last name, Pat? Tyrell.
Pigram. Yeah, Tyrell Pigram.
Yeah, he's that's the guy that he looks pretty elusive. Kevin, is that a quarterback that you think Indiana could have some trouble with because of their young defense?
I think Ty Pigram is kind of interesting because you saw that kind of nifty option run he had in the Purdue game. He adds that kind of speed element, dual option, dual threat element. So does obviously Josh Jackson, and Mike Loxley runs an RPO offense. So I think Indiana's defense is going to have to play very disciplined in this game. They're going to have to account, when they rush the passer, they're going to have to be obviously really disciplined in their, rush lanes to make sure that the quarterbacks, don't break big games. I think that's going to be an important part of the game plan. I think also special teams, too, with Javon Leake and his ability to return kicks. Indiana's, kick return team, coverage team is going to have to be really on point in this game.
And Stephen, that's an issue that where Indiana's had some troubles this year. Special teams has been an area that in recent years was a real plus for Indiana. They've made some mistakes, and it's not just been one game in the special teams area. Had punt blocked, and then the shanking a punt, and catching punts at the 5, and just not doing things really smart, intelligently. That's a part of their game that Indiana has to correct, and I think they need to do it now because this is one of those games where it can come back to haunt you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. I mean, we've seen in years past, in games like these that Indiana has either struggled to win or not been able to break through, to pull out a win, and that's what ends up costing them a bowl game or something like that. I mean, and in games like these where the fact of the matter is you're going into this game expecting a close game, regardless of Maryland's struggles now. You're going in expecting a close game on the road in the Big Ten. And oftentimes in those close games, it's special teams that make a difference. Now, whether that be a punt return, a kick return for a touchdown, or like you mentioned, like we've seen before from Indiana, it's a kickoff going out of bounds, a punt being blocked. So going into this game, you got to expect all three facets of your team have to perform, whether that be offense, defense, or special teams. And in an area where they've struggled in the past with those special teams, I think they have to go into that looking to be exceptionally clean in that. And then, if you can do that, then, you can trust that Michael Penix and his offense will do their job. And the defense, which has been shaky at times, you hope they do their job. So everyone's got to hold down their own. I mean, it's no different on special teams than it is on offense or defense in terms of holding it down and giving your team an opportunity. But especially in a game like this where you feel like it almost feels like a must-win if you want to be bowl eligible soon enough. This feels like a must-win game. Your special teams has to be clean.
Pat, we talked about we don't know. Indiana doesn't know who's going to start at quarterback for the Terrapins, and that's a good thing to have, I guess, because they've got a couple of different quarterbacks. But which quarterback do you expect to start? Which one do you think is actually? Because I know that Jackson started the season off and he was playing well, and then things kind of went awry, and then Pigram came in. But who do you expect to start and why?
Yeah, you said it, Jackson. He started the season as the starting quarterback and had his ups and downs, and it sounded like Coach Loxley was going to roll with him for a while longer either way, but he did suffer a high ankle sprain against Rutgers, so he didn't finish that game, missed the Purdue game, and then Tyrell Pigram has been stepping in for him, and I fully expect Pigram to be the starter this week. Of the practices the media has gotten to see this week, he's been working with the first team, with Tyler DeSue serving as the backup and working with the second team. But Jackson did return to practice this week, has a brace on his ankle and seems to be ramping it up a bit. So whether or not he's available on Saturday, we'll see, but it does seem like Jackson might be starting to work his way back. And obviously Pigram is struggling himself a little bit to operate the offense or to protect the ball. So if he continues to struggle there, I wouldn't be surprised to see Loxley eventually go back to Jackson, or even get to see, what they have in a sophomore in Tyler DeSue, who was actually the MVP of the spring game and showed some promise throughout spring and fall camp.
Kevin, from an Indiana perspective, this seems to be playing into their hands to an advantage. But also from an Indiana perspective, this is the game Indiana just needs to go take care of business. They need to just go win that game. and keep things what they're doing on track and keep moving forward as they try to get towards bowl eligibility. But this Maryland game is a game that Indiana just has to win, period.
Yeah, I think they have to take a mature approach to on the road. You never know with a young team, particularly with a young defense. We certainly saw in the Michigan State game they had some letdowns. I think it's, you have to go in with that mindset, a really mature mindset. Nick Westbrook talked about that during the media availability on Monday, just coming in, not taking anything for granted, not taking a team lightly. Certainly a program like Indiana can't afford to do that. You just have to go in and, really treat it like a business trip, and be on point, and I think Tom Allen will do that. I think Tom Allen senses with this team, even though they're young, that they have a certain maturity about them to be able to handle things. Rutgers and I think UConn, those two games, I think bear that out, 35-0, 38-3. Other than that little lull by in the second quarter offensively against Rutgers, I think that Indiana executed fairly well on both sides of the ball in both those games.
Yes, Steven. Indiana has not done well from a passing defense standpoint against the better teams, against Ohio State, I think I just read a stat that, while they shut down Eastern Illinois, UConn, and Rutgers, basically giving up no yards and no points, they were obliterated by Ohio State and Michigan State and were kind of torched in that area. That's an area where they have to pick up, obviously. I don't think they're going to get stretched too much this week, especially if Pigram is the quarterback, because he seems to be struggling in the passing area of that. But that's something that Indiana has to shore up quickly as they move forward.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking outside of this game, I mean, if Indiana's going to have a shot at bowl eligibility, you can't have what you saw Ohio State and Michigan State do to that secondary. I mean, maybe Maryland doesn't have a quarterback threat like what Ohio State and Michigan State offered, but at the same time, you got to shore up that secondary, and this week is a great opportunity to do that. Maryland's maybe not an opponent you can compare to Michigan State, Ohio State, but they're also better than Rutgers and UConn, teams that IU has shut down in the past. So I think, given Taiwan Mullen and Reese Taylor, we saw this past week, they moved up in the depth chart. They're the starters now. I think that's Tom Allen realizing that, despite those guys being young, they have gotten some quality experience so far. I mean, Taiwan Mullen in that Michigan State game proved to be maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, if not the nation. I mean, he played outstanding in that game. This is a great opportunity for Indiana to really shore up that defense moving forward, even after the Maryland game. And like you said, Jim, I mean, the secondary has been what's cost them, those Ohio State, those Michigan State games. If they want a shot at being bowl eligible or being one of the competitive teams in the Big Ten, they're going to need to shore that up. It starts this week.
Pat, from a Maryland perspective, how are they viewing this Indiana team? And again, Indiana's one of those teams, they're trying to, like Maryland, trying to break out of that bottom of the Big Ten East and up into that, try to break. And Indiana is a team that they're heading in that direction. But what's the viewpoint from the Maryland side of this Indiana program right now?
Oh, yeah. I think Maryland's not in a position to take any team lightly at this point in their season. They need a win. They need to get back on track. So I certainly don't think they'd be looking past anyone. But from everything I've seen of this Indiana team, and I'm sure they've seen the same thing, this isn't a team that you would want to look past anyway. They're very balanced on the offensive side of the ball. Penix is playing as well as any quarterback in the Big Ten. I think he's someone who has fans' attention and obviously the coaches and players' attention. And then also, on defense, I know, it was against Rutgers, but that defensive front seven was very disruptive against Rutgers. So I think, given Maryland's issues on offensive line, or injuries, I guess I should really say, on the offensive line, I think there's some concern there that could be an area that the Hoosiers could take advantage. So I certainly think that everyone's looking at this game is going to be a very tough game. I think they're happy to have it in College Park. It's family weekend, so they're hoping to have a decent crowd there. And I think that they're looking at this as kind of a game where many aren't expecting them to win, but a game that is still winnable and a game that could put them back on track if they were to win it.
Kevin, Indiana's passing attack is just slowly getting better and better. Michael Penix has only started 4 games. I think people forget that. He has started 4 games in his college career, but he's very poised. He seems like he is not a freshman. He's beyond his years, and as this week is another week where that passing game can continue to grow. One of the things they need to do is get Nick Westbrook involved. We've seen some things written, and Nick Westbrook, a fifth-year senior, he's come back from injury, but one of the more prominent receivers on that end, but has not had a big role this season, and that breakout game seems to be coming for him.
Yeah, I think what's happening, Jim, is he's getting a lot of attention, and I think Donovan Hale's getting a lot of attention on the other side, and that's opening things up for Whop Philyor. And, Whop's even talked about that, recently in some interviews. So I think what Michael Penix is doing is just going to the open guy. Now, you would think the next couple of weeks teams would start to take Whop away, and I think when they do that, I think you're going to see, a little more opportunities for Nick and for Donovan on both sides. You're talking about 2 big fifth-year seniors. But, with them, they're, both big targets. I think speed is a little bit of an issue, too, in terms of getting open against Big Ten cornerbacks. But I think both guys, when you look at them, they've put up numbers in so you have to kind of trust the track record there. And I think, again, as you see the defenses start to get Philyor more attention, I think you're going to see Westbrook, get the ball a little more.
Stephen, 2 years ago, we saw Indiana go out to College Park to Maryland in a game that Indiana was expected to win. I thought they were going to win, but they came back with a loss. Now, those are 2 different teams in a different situation, but it's a similar situation for Indiana. They cannot come back with a loss if they want to be the team and the program that they're trying to become. These are games you simply can't lose, that you have to win no matter what.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny you mentioned that game because, a couple of years ago, it felt like when Indiana ended up that season not going to a bowl game, it felt like that Maryland game was the one where you look back and you say, that's a game we should have won, and that's a game that might have cost us bowl eligibility. And you don't want to put yourself in that situation again this year. And Tom Allen's been through that. He's seen that. And everyone always thinks of the past couple of years is that Purdue game at the end you can't pull through. I mean, there's games throughout the season. You can't just look at the final game and not being unable to beat Purdue. It's games like that against Maryland. And we saw last year, on the road at Rutgers, Indiana came out with a win, but it was a very ugly win in a game where you question how good Indiana even was. So, these games on the East Coast, you're traveling out there, Indiana just needs to come out prepared and needs to come out with energy from the first snap. I mean, that's what it's going to take in this game. You can't like we've said about teams like Maryland not looking past Indiana. Indiana can't look past Maryland. Indiana can't really look past anyone at this point until you prove yourself as one of the better teams in the Big Ten. So it's games like these on the road against a lesser opponent where you need to pull through. You need to be able to win if you want to be bowl eligible, if you want to be taken seriously in the Big Ten.
Pat, I'm obviously not keeping up too much with Maryland. Have they faced any teams that's predominantly pass-oriented, and how have they done against that? Because Indiana's offense is predicated off the pass, where there are deep pass, short pass. They've been pretty successful this year with Michael Penix, and as you've heard mentioned, this Whop Philyor and some of these other receivers, Nick Westbrook, Donovan Hale. They've got a stable of those guys. But how has Maryland been against the pass this season?
Yeah, I don't even think it's as much about playing against pass-oriented teams as it is if you're a team game planning from Maryland and you're watching the film, you're very quickly going to realize that passing is the way to go. That's where teams have had the most success against this defense so far this year. And again, that mostly has to do with injuries to the secondary. The Terps are now down a starting safety and 2 starting corners. Hoping to get one of those starting corners back this week, but it's going to be kind of a game time decision sort of thing with Marcus Lewis. So really the secondary's hurting right now. A lot of young guys back there playing, and they got torched against Purdue. Purdue's a team that doesn't run the ball that much to begin with anyway, so I guess you could say that's a pass-happy team they went against, and it worked heavily in Purdue's favor. They had a redshirt freshman quarterback come in and look like Joe Montana against our defense there. So it really it's a combination of playing some pass-happy teams, but also just the fact that Maryland's trying to pull it together on the back end of the defense there.
Pat Donahue's with the Terrapin Sports Report. We've also got Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. And Stefan, say it again.
Stefan Kreisnick.
Kreisnick. You know what? Kreisnick. I'm writing it down and how it's spelled, how it says. So, but Stephen Kreisnick with Indy Star is going to be back with us right after this break. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat reporters from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on Indiana Sports Report right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Yeah, you'll get your shot. Yeah, the sun gonna rise in a mile. In a mile, you'll be feeling fine. In a mile.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, October 17th. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle with you, as always. Dick's at the wheel, keeping things on the track. We're in the midst of Indiana Sports Beat Reporters segment with Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, Stefan Kreisnick from Indy Star, and Pat Donahue from Terrapin Sports Report. How was that, Stefan?
That was perfect.
Got it. Nailed it. In the break, we were talking about I can't believe that the baseball, the game last night, the Yankees and the Astros got rained out, man. But I can't remember the last time there was a rain out in October. But it certainly happened up in New York. And because of that, somebody reminded me that the Ohio State Northwestern game Friday has been moved to FS1, Fox Sports 1, which it shocks me that Ohio State's playing on a Friday. I thought they were one of the teams that said they weren't going to do that. But anyway, so there's that little bit of information for you. Guys, as we move forward this week, Kevin, Indiana, again, we've talked about this. This is a game Indiana just can't lose. They have to win this game. But I honestly, because of the situation we've talked about, Maryland is struggling with pass defense. They're kind of struggling on offense as far as an identity with the quarterback. And because of that, I think Indiana should handle Maryland, even though it's on the road. I think they win this game easily by 2 touchdowns, maybe 17.
Well, I think the thing is, you got to take care of the football first and foremost. That's going to be important on the road. Turnovers create momentum and get the crowd into it. So I think that's job number one. And Indiana's been done a pretty good job all season of taking care of the football. But Michael Penix did have an interception against Rutgers. There was a fumble in that game as well. Samson James. And I think Samson James is a guy, by the way, that is going to have to show a little, better ball security going forward to get, more carries that he wants. But Stevie Scott, the running game too, getting a little balance going as well, even though, Maryland's weaknesses in pass defense, we saw that last week. If he can build off that, I think that's all going to add up to, a pretty good chance for Indiana to win.
Stefan Kreisnick from the Indy Star, for Maryland to have a chance in this game, in my mind, it would be because Pigrome is a running quarterback. Indiana's got a young defensive front, although they've gotten better. They seem like they get better each week. They're still very young and inexperienced, and this is a situation where I don't know that they've really faced other than the Ohio State game, and you had a quarterback that's so talented, like that can run it that well. But I think that's their only opportunity. And if Indiana maybe turned the ball over, that could be a problem. But this front of Indiana is getting better. But this is going to be a pretty good test for them, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's one thing when I was thinking about this morning is this game is really important for both teams at the line, especially Indiana, whether it be on offense or defense. I mean, we've seen that offensive line been huge for Indiana the last couple games. But on the defensive side of the ball, when Indiana's front seven has been able to create pressure, it's made it so much easier on that secondary that struggled at times. And I think we saw with a young front seven, and that's, with young players, you're going to have a lot of emotions that come into it and stuff like that. And I think that first play against Rutgers, you go out there, you get a strip sack, return for a touchdown. Now, maybe you can't expect that against Maryland, but that was a big play at the beginning of the game that gave the team a lot of confidence, gave that front seven a lot of confidence, especially a young front seven. And I think that front seven, I don't remember exactly how many sacks they had against Michigan State, if they even had any, but they did a great job of creating pressure, which at times helped the secondary out because you're rushing the quarterback a little bit more. Now the secondary struggled against Michigan State. We saw the result of that. But when that front seven can create pressure, it's going to make it a lot easier on the secondary. And like you mentioned, a young front seven, they're getting better each week. I think the front seven now compared to where it was maybe against Ball State or Ohio State early in the season is way, way better than what it was. So I think that front seven, especially early in the game, really needs to establish itself, get some pressure on the quarterback, or like you mentioned, if the quarterback is able to move out of the pocket and create some plays with his legs, be able to limit how many rushing yards he can get and not be able to move the chains as much. So look for that front seven early in the game to really try to establish itself.
Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report. For Maryland to have a chance in this game, what do they have to do? Indiana, you talked about that Maryland is a team that has struggled against the pass, which is Indiana's forte. And on top of that, even though Indiana has a young and patched up offensive line, I believe they lead the Big Ten in allowing the least amount of sacks so far this year. So what does Maryland have to do to have a chance at winning this ball game, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, they gotta figure something out on defense. It's going to be a struggle just with the injuries in the secondary to stop Indiana's prolific passing game. So the best way to do it is to get pressure on Penix and to, like you said, he's a young quarterback. He still has only had 4 starts. So even though he's very athletically gifted and has a great arm, he, you can maybe disguise some defenses and throw some looks at him and some blitzes that he hasn't seen before. I would think that would be their best that to try and confuse him and maybe cause some turnovers on defense. That's really the only way I see them being able to pull this one out, because I expect this game to be a shootout. I do expect Maryland's offense to, with another week of pig room practicing with the first team exclusively and being able to take advantage of some of the inexperience in Indiana's defense, I do expect Maryland to be able to put up some points, but I just don't see how they're going to be able to stop Indiana's offense unless they are able to come up with a creative game plan that results in some turnovers. But if they can do that, and if they can cause Penix to turn the ball over a few times, or maybe get a couple, strips and fumbles, then I think they'll be right in there at the end of this game.
Okay, I think because of all we've talked about, my prediction for this game, I think Indiana wins big. I think that they're getting things coming together at the right time. I think they're catching Maryland at a bad time for them as they try to grow and get an offense put together. I think Indiana wins 41-10 in this game because I think they need to make a statement. Although they played well in these games last week, winning 35-0, they left points on the field. They left a lot on the field, not getting accomplished with that big lull in that second quarter. But so that's what I'm thinking. Kevin Brockway from CNHI, what do you think happens in this game?
I'll say 41-28 Indiana. I think it's the every other week for this defense. It's been inconsistent. You look at it, Ball State, a bunch of missed tackles, and dominant against Eastern Illinois. Ohio State, obviously, Justin Fields had a field day. Then a good job against Connecticut. Michigan State, some letdowns in the secondary, then a good job against Rutgers. So I think this is due for the down week a little bit for the defense. I think Maryland's going to score some points, and, Pig Rome is going to be a little better in the second week. But I think Indiana, with Maryland's struggles defensively, is going to be able to, take advantage of that and ultimately outscore the Terrapins.
Stefan, when we get done here, everyone's going to know how to pronounce your last name. Stefan Kreisnick from the Indy Star. How do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think Indiana pulls it out. I think it'll be a little. Did you say 41-10, Jim?
That was my score.
I don't know if I'll go that far. I'll say I think Indiana pulls it out 38-30, something like that. I don't know how confident I am in Indiana's defense yet and what they can do now. Granted, Maryland's offense has been a little bit up and down this season. I think Maryland can put up a fight in this game. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's a game where Indiana is going to lead most of the way, so it might not feel close. But I think 38-30 is somewhere in that range would be a good estimate from my part. I don't know. I just Indiana struggled in games like this before, games on the road in the Big Ten. I don't know if I want to jump the gun yet and believe 100% that they'll be able to run past a team like Maryland. I think Maryland, we say a lot, it's not about who you play, it's when you play them. I think Indiana is getting Maryland at the right time. But on the road in the Big Ten with a young team, it's still going to be a little bit difficult. So I think Maryland puts up a fight, but ultimately Indiana pulls through.
Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report. How do you see this game coming out? I know that Maryland is really, they need a win as badly as Indiana needs a win. I mean, and actually, I don't know who this would benefit more as far as a boost in the arm. If Maryland could pull off a win here, this would be huge for their program. But how do you see this game ending up?
Yeah, I agree. It's a must-win kind of feel for both teams right now. But I do agree with what you were saying in terms of Indiana catching Maryland kind of at the right time as they're still trying to figure out their identity on offense with a new quarterback, and as the defense is just trying to overcome some injuries and having to play some young guys. So I do think Maryland's going to come out and play inspired in front of its home crowd and its family weekend on campus. So, there'll be a lot of alumni and a lot of student athletes' families on at the game and whatnot. So I don't think they're going to roll over. 41-10, while it's definitely not impossible, hopefully they put up a better showing than that. But I do think because Indiana's got momentum in their favor and Maryland's looking for a lot of answers right now, I do think Indiana's going to win this one relatively easily by a score of, say, maybe 38-28.
Sounds like that's very possible, to be honest with you. Kevin, switching, looking at the Big Ten in general right now. The Big Ten is, I don't know if I want to say it looks stronger than maybe people thought it was going to be, but they've got two teams that are bumping heads up in that upper echelon with Ohio State and Wisconsin now both being mentioned in that top four category. I've watched a lot yesterday of guys talking about their current top four. Pat Forty, he listed Wisconsin number 2 and Ohio State number 3 in the country right now. But we're talking about the SEC having 2 teams in there, and I think that Georgia's kind of eliminated them from doing that on that side. But Wisconsin has really been I don't want to say they've been a surprise because they're always good. We always know they're going to be good, but they're a little bit better than a lot of people expected them to be, Kevin.
Yeah, and Jim Leonard has done an incredible job with that defense. I think, as far as the defense coordinator, there's a name you want to talk about. If you're going to talk about a future college football head coach, he's been terrific. They've obviously got the great running game with Jonathan Taylor, and Cohen, their quarterback, has played reasonably well. And Ohio State, obviously, with Justin Fields. And, hey, don't forget about Penn State. They're number 7 in the country. Minnesota's undefeated. There's a lot of good football being played in the Big Ten right now, and it's been definitely a strong season.
Yeah, there's going to be some big games coming up, Stefan. I mean, we'll see that Penn State-Ohio State game later on, and Penn State is a team that's also up there. They've got a big game this weekend, the whiteout with Michigan, I think. So that'll be a good game. And speaking of Michigan, there's a team that, again, it's like they continue to let their fans down. You talk about a team letting people down. Jim Harbaugh's not exactly had a great run of it there in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, the Michigan team is pretty hard to figure out right now. I think everyone's in that same boat of trying to figure out. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we're trying to figure out, is Michigan a top 10 team or outside the top 10? Now you got a question, is that even a top 25 team? I mean, you figure they're probably going to be bowl eligible. They'll get to a bowl, but probably not the bowl that they want to be playing in. And, being from being an Indiana reporter and seeing it, I mean, Indiana fans are almost starting to get a little cocky with when Michigan comes to town with Indiana being to pull off that upset. I don't know if I want to go that far yet. But I think, it's so hard for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan with the expectations that are set. I mean, for them, it's almost at this point, it's either top 4 team or bust. So you got to balance that out, that whether those expectations are realistic or not, considering Michigan has to face, teams like Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State. I mean, it's tough to be a top 4 team consistently. And that's kind of what Harbaugh's expectations are. I mean, I guarantee there's a ton of teams that wish they could have Harbaugh as their head coach. He's just at Michigan right now, and they're struggling. And I mean, not to let Jim Harbaugh go. I mean, this has been a very disappointing season for them. I think, they could be a number 8 team, and some people consider it a disappointment, but being where they are right now, that's really, really been a disappointment. And when you got Indiana fans, which maybe they get a little bit ahead of themselves sometimes, but when you got Indiana fans thinking they have a realistic shot against Michigan, that might say something about where Michigan is right now. So, I mean, Michigan has a great chance to prove everyone wrong this weekend, but I think most everyone is expecting Penn State to just come out and roll right past them. So, yeah, Michigan, who knows with that, but with Penn State, Ohio State, Wisconsin, I mean, those are teams you expect to be good, but those 3 teams have all been great, really great this season. Now, granted, Penn State hasn't had as tough of a schedule, but it's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out. I think Ohio State ends up being the best team. I think Ohio State ends up representing the Big Ten in the college football playoff, but it's going to be really interesting to see how those games play out.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone's going to be crying for Jim Harbaugh. That's for certain. but yeah, we'll see. The Pat has been Minnesota, and the Big Ten has 4 teams that is 6-0 for the first time since 1900, and theoretically they could end up 11-1, all 4 of them. I don't know if that's going to happen, but Minnesota, I'm not sure that we know how good they really are because. They started out the season with South Dakota State. Then they played. They had an overtime win over Fresno State. Kalen DeBoer's old stop, which is IU's offensive coordinator. Georgia Southern. Then they got a close win at Purdue. Then they got an Illinois team that's not that great. Then they got a Nebraska team that hasn't been doing that much. Now they go to Rutgers. They haven't played anybody really this year, to be honest with you. But they're 6-0, so you got to take them seriously. And are they a team that you think is a serious threat over there in that Big Ten West? We still have Pat?
All right, I'm sorry. I missed you cut out for the first part of that question.
My bad. I'm just talking about Minnesota.
About Minnesota, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that they're as good. They're 6-0, and they're up there with the other 6-0 teams in the Big Ten, but they're not the same. They haven't really played anybody yet, but they sure benefited from getting the teams on their schedule at the right time. But regardless, they're bowl eligible. They're 6-0.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, you got to play who they put on your schedule, right? And so, to no fault of their own, they're 6-0. But I agree. I don't think that they're nearly as strong as the other top teams in the Big Ten. Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin. I think that they're going to get some losses here on the back end of their schedule. But hey, they're already bowl eligible. They're clearly rebuilding a little bit faster than some of these other teams in the Big Ten that are also in this transitional stage. So good for them, but I think that that's a team that once Maryland plays them next week, I think that it'll be a little bit closer than some people anticipate, or maybe the line would suggest, since Minnesota will be on a roll and Maryland's kind of heading in the other direction. And yeah, I think that, Minnesota is a good team, but not a great team.
That's Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report. I can't thank you enough, brother. Appreciate you coming on. Look forward to be able to do this again, and maybe back during basketball. Do you cover Maryland basketball?
Yeah, I do, and I'd be happy to hop on with you guys again. This was fun.
We'll definitely be doing it again. Our good friend Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers. Make sure you follow him if you don't for IU coverage. Kevin, thank you so much, man.
All right, thank you.
And our good buddy, Stefan Krasnick from the Indianapolis Star. Make sure you give him a follow as well, Stefan. Thanks, brother. We'll make sure we hit all that stuff up on our rebroadcast of this so everybody knows where to find you guys. But thank everybody. Thank you, Stefan.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Jim. I think if anything people could take away from this is how to pronounce my name at this point.
Exactly. It's gold for me, man. I got it. It's done. It's over. I got it. I got this. Guys, thanks a lot. That's going to wrap it up. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday, October 17. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. It's a brisk day out there. There's a good word for it. Great segment just finished up with Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, Stefan Kreisnick from the Indy Star, and Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report. Do our weekly sports reporter segment. Get a lot of positive feedback. A lot of people like that segment. We'll be doing that all the way through basketball as well. So look forward to doing that. Big game for Indiana this weekend as far as an opportunity to get one step closer to being bowl eligible. They were in this situation 2 years ago. Went out to College Park and came back with a big L. I don't see that happening this week. You know, I gave my predicted score at 41-10. Maybe a little optimistic, but it's because, and maybe that's, I don't know. Indiana should have scored 3 touchdowns more than they did last week. So I'm thinking that they get this stuff together. Jake's looking. What are you about to say, Jake?
That should be the score. I mean, it's still to be determined if it will be. I mean, Indiana's got to come out and execute. And
that's the thing. I'm thinking, all right, this is the week they execute, and it's timing. I mean, you're catching a Maryland team that, man, they don't know what end is up. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be, which they probably do. It's going to be Pigram, but he can't throw the ball. He can run the ball, but that's only going to work for a little bit. Indiana will just lock. I'm assuming they're just going to lock that down. When you don't have a passing threat, we've seen what happens. You load the box, and I think that's going to become problematic for Maryland. And the fact that they can't defend the pass very well, that's what Indiana does very well. That's not a good combination for Maryland. And I think that these guys, they want that breakout. Michael Penix and Wap Fillier and Donovan Hale and Nick Westbrook and Stevie Scott, they want this breakout game. They want to show people, hey, man, we are a good team. And that's them saying it, not me. They want to, but they haven't done that yet. They keep making enough mistakes. Last week in the Rutgers game, a team that is the worst team you're going to see all year, and maybe for a few years. But they left so much on the field as far as not scoring. That second quarter was abysmal. I don't think they have that problem this week. I think that that was probably a good time. That was a great time to have that issue because it's not going to hurt you. And you can work on that. You got some text into the show I wasn't able to get to earlier. Let me get to those. Earlier I was talking about the XFL draft. T. Scales was drafted on Tuesday in the XFL. Wednesday, four more Hoosiers were drafted. Jay Sean Harris and Robert McCray were drafted by the same team. Then Bobby Richardson and Andrew McDonald were also drafted. That's in from Tim. Thank you, sir. He also asked, I wonder if Archie brought up the possibility of reclassification to 2020 for Christian Lander and his family because it didn't come up until after his IU visit. No, I doubt that very seriously. But that's not to say that it didn't get relayed to them. But I have no idea to say that. I mean, that would be could that have happened? Could he have told Cardell McFarland, who is one of his handlers, that, hey, man, it would be great if he reclassified because we could sure use him. But, that's something we'll never know. And And that would only be speculation. But I doubt it. I mean, I think Christian Lander is just one of those players that his star is just booming so fast and glowing so big already with 2 more years of high school in front of him. But this is the kid that can play right now in college, today. He could play with these guys. Now, would he need a season of beefing up? Would he need a season of seasoning, of playing? Absolutely. But so you're going to need that sometime anyway. It doesn't matter. Whenever you go, you're going to need that. I think that if he were to reclassify, it would be a boom, a big-time hit, good hit for Indiana, because they need a point guard, number one, a backup point guard. And for him to be able to learn in that role and then step into it the following season would be huge. But also, he's just a good player. And I think that if they end up if he does reclassify and they get Dawson Garcia, that's going to be a pretty daggone good class. Another text in from Bill. If UK is allowed to pay basketball players, UK's payroll will be higher than the LA Lakers. Possibly. You know, but something I thought about, and I was going to bring this up with our sports reporters on this like this name, like this image deal. There are so many things that can go wrong is the scary thing. What prevents one player from being the superstar, getting a Nike contract or an Adidas contract or Under Armour contract for $1 million while he's in college and spreading that love to his teammates? What's to prevent a player from handing out just wads of cash? There's just so many things that can go bad. And again, I'm not against it. I just know there's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of what ifs, man. And those what ifs have to be addressed, or it's going to be a Donnybrook. It's going to be a free-for-all.
A quagmire, if you will.
A quagmire, if you will. Sounds like a 60s sitcom, something coming in there. A quagmire. Man, what a great show we've had so far. I'm all wound up. Got to go out to Tom Allen's press conference today. He has always has a Thursday press conference it's our last opportunity to talk to Coach Allen before they head off to wherever they go, whether it's home or away. This week they leave for Maryland tomorrow, of course. I think Indiana's going to win big. I really do. Jalen Washington, kid in the 2022 class, is someone to keep an eye on. Gary Native is currently ranked seventh in that class. It's another 5-star. If Indiana could pull that kid in, pull in Christian Lander. But if Christian Lander reclassifies, there's no guarantees that he'll be here when Jalen Washington arrives. I see Christian Lander here for 2 years max. And that's if he reclassifies. If he does not reclassify, I don't know that he's here more than a year. I'll be honest with you. As a matter of fact, if he does not reclassify and he goes to Indiana, of course he has to pick Indiana first too. But anyway, wherever he goes, if he does not reclassify, I think he's a one and done. But I think that'll play out on how his season goes, how he rises and falls in the expected draft to follow. But that's just my take on that. Big game Friday night in the Big Ten, Ohio State Northwestern. It's been moved to Fox Sports 1 because the Yankees and the Astros were rained out last night. So that moves everything forward. Indiana's game on Saturday at Maryland is at 3:30. And I think that pushed that to BTN Plus, maybe. There's just all kinds of it's like a domino effect. But that game's at 3:30. Indiana has back-to-back 3:30 games when they travel to Nebraska next week. And I cannot wait for Nebraska week. That is going to be a big-time game for Indiana, because if they come through this game like I expect them to with a win at Maryland, they will be one game short of bowl eligibility in Lincoln. And I think that is a very winnable game for Indiana. If they continue to play like they've played and improve on defense, but they have got to get their pass defense shored up, because against teams not named Ball State or UConn or Eastern Illinois or Rutgers, they've been torched. There's been some guys that have played extremely well and some guys that, There have been some changes on the depth chart this week. A couple of guys are starting over a couple of guys that had started, which doesn't mean a lot, but a little shakeup. There's a reason for it. It sends a message. But they've got to get that shored up if they want to be a team that can compete and beat Nebraska and Michigan. Because right now I think they can if they take care of business. I know they can if they take care of business. Now, whether they do or not, it's a whole different story. But these teams are going to continue to get better. Michigan, they're going to get better. Penn State's going to get better. Purdue, look, man, you got to take your hat off to Purdue. Look, they've been knocked around with injuries as well this year. They lost their quarterback, lost Rondale Moore for a while. I don't know that they have him back yet. They hammered. It was Maryland, wasn't it? They hammered Maryland. So much so that their quarterback was the offensive player of the week. Their backup quarterback was the offensive player of the week. Threw for over 400 yards. So that game, which had been trending towards in Indiana's favor, that's back to, since that's going to be on the road, that's like 5 to 6 weeks from now. So if that quarterback can come out and throw for 400 yards now, he's going to be even better 6 weeks from now. So that'll be a tough game. I mean, anytime you go to West Lafayette, it doesn't matter. It's a tough game. Indiana's gone there, played them 2 years in a row with bowl eligibility on the line. I think that that's not going to be the case this year. And I think that's going to help Indiana because they're already going to be bowl eligible. So that monkey's going to be off their back. They don't have to worry about it. We'll certainly find out. Hey, coming up, we've got Matt Weaver on a reboot for you. Hope you've enjoyed the show. It's been a good one so far. We've got lots more coming up here from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat Radio back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett. Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday, October 16th, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios in Bloomington, joined now by our good friend Matt Weaver from Peegs.com. Matthew, how are you, sir?
I'm doing okay. How are you guys?
Good, man. Good. Big week for Indiana as they come off of a nice win, and now they've got to get on the road and take care of business, which we saw up in East Lansing. They're not afraid of road games, which I'll be honest with you, that's one of the things I was most impressed with, Matt, was the poise this young team showed up in East Lansing of fighting up there as they go out on the road again this week as they head to Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach DeBoer, when we talked to him that a couple weeks ago after that Michigan State game on a Monday, he just said, when you just go up there and you kind of make it, you kind of make it simple. You just go out there and do your job and just kind of play ball. It's not that it's easy, but it makes it a lot easier. When you just kind of do your thing and don't worry about what stuff you can't control, the crowd and all that. It just it makes things a lot easier, and that's what they did. And I think if they have that same mindset, that same mentality this week, I wouldn't expect. I don't know what the numbers are for this game, but I wouldn't expect that you're going to have the same kind of atmosphere you had at Michigan State, where you're going to have 75,000 or so. That Michigan State obviously at that time was, they weren't undefeated, but as far as the Big Ten stuff, they were still obviously playing for a lot. They still are, but it's changed the last couple of weeks for them. But Maryland's kind of reeling. The wheels have come off for them a little bit. So I would think that it won't be the same kind of distraction as far as the crowd as you had at East Lansing.
Absolutely, and the offense that Maryland is kind of really taking a hit as well. I'm not sure if they're going to have their quarterback back. I think they are. He's kind of problematic, but he seems to be the bulk of their offense, and that's him going back to pass and then scrambling for runs.
Yeah, talking about Josh Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. The other guy, Ty, I think is it Pigromi or Pigromi?
Yes.
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 He gives him an athletic guy. Man, it's fun. I actually,
know Ty a little bit. IU recruited him out of high school. I think he's out of Alabama, and so I did a story on him. But athletic guy, it's obviously struggles a little bit throwing the ball. I don't. Personally, I think he might scare me a little bit more than Josh Jackson just because of his ability to escape and make plays with his legs. Now if you get if you get up on them and he's the quarterback, it's going to be tough for him because throwing the ball is not his forte, and they have to kind of change how they play. But him in the read option with some of those running backs that McFarland they have, to me, if he plays, I think he was a little bit banged up against Purdue. But that kind of scares me more than maybe Jackson, just because Jackson's had some turnover issues, and even if he does play this week, I think he had a high ankle sprain. I got to think his mobility is going to still be fairly limited. So it'll be interesting. I mean, no matter what, you're going to have to play sound defensively, make tackles. These are the kind of guys that can make you miss tackles and turn a 3 or 4 yard run into a 15-yard run or something like that. So. But defensively, you're still going to have to play no matter who's back there. You're still going to have to defend their speed and their athleticism. And, if Indiana does that, I think offensively they'll be okay. This is a team that's really struggled defending the pass, and Indiana has got one of the best passing attacks in the conference. So they should be able to throw the ball if they protect Michael Penix. I don't think they're going to have any problem moving the ball. Just, can they get some stops defensively and not make any mistakes on special teams?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue the I don't know if you call it a resurgence, but the running game has really been, obviously against Rutgers, it was a great day for Stevie Scott. He had 164 yards rushing, but that's something that had not been really a part of this offense that much yet, getting back to that. And if they can continue that, this offense is going to continue to become more and more of a problem for people.
Yeah, and I asked Coach Allen about it last week. Even though the numbers aren't going to show it, I really thought they turned the corner a little bit against Michigan State. I thought they played with a lot more physicality up front. And Michigan State's a hard team to run the ball on. They just are. That's why they're one of the best run defenses have been for a number of years. But I just like the way they came off the ball. I like the way they got after it. I thought Stevie Scott ran. I thought early in the year it's almost like he was trying to break a big one every time he ran the ball instead of, maybe putting his shoulder down and if it's a 5 or 6 yard run, take those 5 or 6 yards. And I thought he ran, with a lot more purpose, I would say, I guess, against Michigan State, and that carried over to this week. And he did break a couple runs. Obviously, he had that real long one. He had another one that was pretty long. So, sometimes I think when you try to hit the home run is when you strike out. When you just kind of, put a nice good swing on it, baseball speak, is when you actually hit the ball hard. Same thing in football. When you try to make a big play, a lot of times it ends up not happening. If you just go out there and try to make a play, not a big play, just make a play, do your job. That's when something breaks open for you. So, and I just think the O-line has done a lot better job in run blocking. Obviously, all season, you take out the Ohio State game, and that to me is kind of an outlier because their D-line and Chase Young is just so unbelievably good. They've done a good job of protecting the quarterback. I mean, it's, now some of that's the scheme and getting rid of the ball, but they've done a nice job of keeping the pocket clean and giving whoever's been back there a chance to throw the ball and give them time to find guys.
Yeah, and the running attack for Indiana is kind of starting to solidify with Stevie Scott, Ronnie Walker, and Samson James all having a nice day last week. And, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Nicole Guest recently entered the transfer portal only because there's just not enough room there, right?
Yeah, and I mean, going into the season, when you look at the roster, at least for me, you kind of look at guys, and Cole Guest when he's played, has been a nice player for Indiana, but you look at guys, and I kind of look at the guys who are like a redshirt junior. The guys, okay, if they don't play, could this be, when I'm looking at it from a recruiting standpoint and seeing how many scholarships they might have for the upcoming class, is this a guy that could maybe move on because he's not playing a lot or he's kind of falling down the depth chart or whatever it may be. And, Cole was one of those guys, not because he's not a good player. He's just, Stevie Scott's really good. Ronnie Walker, and Samson James are young guys with a lot of talent. And, they just kind of moved past him. And then the injury bug has really bit him hard in college, unfortunately. This is his third year of having, he was in Michigan State game because he got hurt against UConn and obviously he wasn't getting a ton of playing time, but then when that happened, he even fell further behind. So I'm not shocked that it happened. I mean, maybe a little bit happened during the season, but if you're in your mind, if you moved on in your mind, if you're not all in, then it's best for you to go ahead and just step away now and start exploring other options and other opportunities for your final year of college football, because it's not fair to you and obviously not fair to the team.
Yeah, and then you look at you got the youth like David Ellis, who's kind of starting to poke his head out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy. People ask me on our board about taking a running back in this class, with the loss of Cole Guest and then obviously Ivory Winters before at the start of the season. And one thing I've said is, I don't think they're going to take one unless it's absolutely somebody they just feel like they can't pass on. I don't think they're going to take a guy just to take a guy to give him some numbers. Excuse me, because David Ellis is a guy that played running back in high school. He played all over the place, really, because he was a great athlete and could do a lot of things. But he could play running back if they, and then if they brought Alante Brown, the prep school guy that was on campus this past weekend for an official visit. He's kind of like more like a Whop Fillier as far as his stature, but he's a guy that could play running back too. So if you would get a guy like Alante Brown and you have David Ellis, I don't think taking what I would call a pure running back, a guy who basically is just a running back in this class is a necessity. If there's somebody out there that you absolutely just love and you can't pass on, then you do it. But you don't take a guy just because you lost a couple and you need to get your numbers up. I think their numbers are okay, especially if they would get somebody like Alante Brown or somebody similar who's kind of an athlete who could play receiver, running back, or whatever. I think they'll be okay. And David Ellis, I mean, he's just got natural running instincts. You can see that. I mean, as against Rutgers, I get it. But first time running the ball, 35 yards, I think, on 7 carries, so 5 yards a pop. You can he's a strong kid for a freshman. He's athletic. He's fast. He's explosive. He's just, what a great addition he's been this year, for this offense.
Yeah, and then you look at Nick Westbrook had a decent day last week too, 5 catches, 50 yards. You guys had a piece on him, trying to get him more involved in this offense.
Yeah, and I think that's been. Coach Allen mentioned it. I think it was last week when on his radio show. I'm sorry, last Wednesday, somebody asked a caller, when they asked the questions, who's the one guy on offense you like to see get more involved? And he mentioned Westbrook, and I don't think it's anything Nick's done wrong or that they're not throwing the ball. I just think they've got so many weapons that sometimes it's hard for guys. Now, obviously, Whop has kind of bucked this trend where the last 2 weeks where he's had 14 and 10 catches, or last 2 games, I should say, where it's hard for one guy to be the focal point. But some of that is, Whop plays that slot position. They're doing a lot of quick passes, those, slants and bubble screens. And he's the most natural guy to do that because he's so good with the ball in his hands. And you got guys like Nick Westbrook and Donovan Hale and Peyton Hendershot on the perimeter blocking Ty Freifogel as well. So I think that's kind of just played into it. I don't think it's, anything in particular, but you'd like to get that downfield passing game as far as some deep balls and obviously Penix has shown that he can throw some good deep balls, but you like to get Nick because he's so good down the field, and he's had a few opportunities, and he'd probably say there's a few that he probably should have had, but that's another element to their offense. I mean, they're playing pretty well offensively. And I still don't think they're kicking or they're firing on all cylinders. You mentioned the running game starting to come along, but getting a guy like Nick Westbrook involved would add even more to this offense. So, I think it's something that you'll see improve, and I think it's something you'll see. He had 5 for I think 50 yards and a touchdown, and if you could get around that every week, 5, 6 catches for 70, 80 yards from Nick Westbrook, I think you'd be pretty pleased if you're the IU staff.
Absolutely. Also on the defensive side, Reese Taylor coming back from injury, trying to get him back in, play more. We talked about that at the press conference the other day. He made some great plays on special teams, but getting an athlete like that, and they talked about how physical he's been playing, but getting someone like that on this defense, to me, would really go a long way because they're playing better, obviously, and playing okay, but they just seem to be missing that something.
Yeah, any questions anybody had about it, I think probably the biggest question about Reese Taylor playing defense after being a quarterback in high school was, could he be physical? Could he do tackle and do stuff like that? And on the kickoff where he was called for a penalty, which I didn't think was a penalty, but he went down and just threw his body and took the kick return around on a great play. Then they back it up 5 yards and he comes down and does the exact same thing on the kickoff again. it shows you that the kid's got toughness. I mean, there's, him playing physical is not going to be an issue at all. So, and getting him back, obviously disappointing to lose a guy like Ashawn Riggins, whose career started off so well, such a promising start. And then just, he had that concussion his sophomore year, and he just never seemed to be the same guy. And obviously it's become a problem to the point where, and it's, he needed to walk away from the game, and good for him. He's a bright young man, and he'll have a great future, whatever he does. But, getting, losing him, getting Reese back and getting him in the mix, is definitely a big deal because they're pretty deep at corner, but all it takes is an injury or two and you could be kind of thin. But between him and Tywan Mullen and Jalen Williams, they got some really good young corners and, bright future at that position. And obviously Larry Tracy's redshirting, but I think defensively they come on. I mean, I know it was Rutgers, but 75 yards is 75 yards. 1 yard passing, that's just incredible. So I went back and looked at Rutgers' last few games. I mean, the best the lowest somebody's held them to is like 125. And I get the personnel's change, but that was a terrific performance. You can only play who's on your schedule, and Indiana did what you're supposed to do to a team like Rutgers. They dominated them.
Absolutely. You talk about Ashawn Riggins having to give up football. Juan Harris, another defensive member of that team that has decided to give up football. So they've had some attrition there.
Yeah, and Juan, it's a tough deal. I mean, anybody who knows Juan's story, this is a kid who's he's just had a bad home life. His dad was murdered a couple years ago on the streets of Chicago. His mom has just kind of been non-existent. He's kind of bounced around from, friend or coach or, whoever. I mean, I know for a while in high school, he lived with one of his coaches. Juan's really, he's a bright kid. I think he has trust issues, which is probably understandable when you've grown up like that. It's just a shame. He's got a lot of talent. I just wish nothing but the best for him, whatever he decides to do. Just getting to know him through the recruiting process. And I've always really liked Juan, and I think nobody can help the situation that they're born into. It's just a shame that he's not had the advantages that a lot of people in this world do. But hopefully he can figure it out and get things on track because he's really not a bad kid at all. He's just not had any kind of guidance or kind of support system at home that a lot of us take for granted.
Yeah, and people don't think that makes a gigantic difference. They're absolutely wrong. But, we wish him the absolute best. Few changes on the depth chart. Not a lot, but just on defensively especially, one of which I think is Jalen Williams going to be starting at cornerback for Indiana.
Yeah, and if you go back, him and Taiwan actually started out, back in the game notes or the box score from the Rutgers game. And then also, actually the entire secondary was changed. You mentioned Jalen Williams and Tywan Mullen at corner, and then Khalil Bryant and Jawan Burgess got to start at safety. Now, Indiana rotates a lot, and actually I think Devon Matthews might have Jawan Burgess and Devon Matthews play that one safety position, but I think Devon Matthews might have actually got a few more snaps than Jawan Burgess did. So really, who starts and who doesn't is not as big of a deal. But it was interesting that there were some changes. It shows depth. I don't think some of those guys were playing bad. I just think they're just trying to maybe shake it up, trying to get some plays. I mean, they haven't got the takeaways this year that they got last year, and a lot of that's obviously comes from your secondary, your DB. So I think they're just trying to shake it up. Jawan Burgess is a really talented guy. Khalil Bryant, may not be the most physically, athletically gifted guy on the team, but he's really smart. He plays hard. He's always in the right spot. I mean, Coach Allen talked about him Monday. I think he was one of the players of the game on defense. So just trying to shake it up. But, Brian Fitzgerald and Devon Matthews and Raheem Lane and Andre Brown. Andre Brown actually got some run at safety. I don't know if people noticed that, but it was really on third downs against Rutgers, which to me I always felt like he might be a better fit at safety than corner. But they just got a lot of interchangeable parts, a lot of good athletes back there. And maybe this is something they do going forward. Obviously it works Saturday, so we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. Matt, you got anything else that people need to know about?
Oh, yeah. Was down there yesterday and talked to Coach Hiller and Matthew Bedford and David Ellis. And I'm actually putting a little Q&A I did with Coach Hiller up on our site right now as we speak. And that'll be up here in just a few moments. And, have some other stuff. And on Matthew Bedford, David Ellis, good talks with him yesterday. A couple great young guys. Matthew Bedford, both of them just really well spoken, just good kids, and obviously very talented players. So people should be looking forward to those coming out here in the next day or two.
There you go. Matt Weaver, our friend from Peaks.com. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Look forward to – I won't see you on Saturday. I'm not going to the game, but look forward to seeing you soon.
Okay. Take care, man.
You bet. Matt Weaver from Peaks.com, the Dream Weaver himself joining us. Coming up next, sports director from Fox 41, Aaron Matus, is going to be joining us. We've got a lot to get to. Also, a text into the show from Tim. Indiana's Mike Roberts checked out 2021 6'5" guard Jaden Brewer. He was supposed to make it to his Hoosier Hysteria, but had to cancel due to a family matter. He played on the Indy Heat team. His nickname is Showtime. Says if you live in Indiana, you have to follow Indiana basketball. He sounds like he likes IU. I think I've heard of Jaden Brewer. I haven't checked into him a lot yet, but one of the 2021 kids, a 6'5" guard. But again, they seem pretty loaded at that position. 20 days to our exhibition game against Gannon University, Tim also points out. Indiana has outscored opponents 250-68. I assume that's on football. Lots more to get to here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Aaron Matus joins us next. Stay tuned. We're back at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett. Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is James Blackman Jr., former Indiana Hoosier. Make sure you're keeping up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat.
Radio here on this Thursday, October 17. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Thanks a lot for joining us here today. We appreciate you. I want to thank all my guests before I forget. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers joined us earlier for the reporter segment, along with Stephen Kreisnick from the Indy Star and Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report. Always love doing the sports reporter segment. Man, this is Maryland week for Indiana. Yesterday, the IU volleyball team was in Maryland, lost in 5 sets. Man, a tough one. I was just looking at the scores. Virtually all of the scores were tough. First set was 27-25. Indiana won that one after being down, storming back. Then the second set, 25-23, 22-25, 20-25, and then 12-15. A tough 5-set loss to Maryland for Coach Steve Aird, where he came from before coming to Indiana. So tough, even tougher loss for him. But they've got a couple more games on the road. The Hoosiers fall to 12-8 overall. They're 1-6 in Big Ten play, so they're not getting the success that they'd like to get just yet. Maryland improved to 11-8 overall and 3-4 in Big Ten play. DeShia Lofton tallied 3 blocks and moved to 8th on the Hoosiers' all-time block list. A lot of other good things that came out of that. So up next for the Hoosiers there, they continue their road swing with a match at Iowa on Sunday, October 20th. The match will be televised on the BTN starting at 4 o'clock, so you can follow Indiana volleyball. Thursday, which is today, the Indiana women's soccer program, they are playing Maryland. They're in Maryland, so we wish them good luck. The men's soccer team is at Maryland tomorrow, and then, of course, the football team is at Maryland on Saturday. So it's definitely a Maryland week. Kind of weird. I don't know that I recall seeing that. They could have put everybody on one big plane and took them out there, right? Hey, again, I appreciate everybody on the program today. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, Stephen Kreisnick from the Indy Star, and Pat Donahue from the Terrapin Sports Report for jumping on with us on the reporter segment. We got a lot coming up tomorrow, of course. It's Friday. It's Todd Father Friday. Todd Leary will be with us. Talk to Tom Brew. We'll see what else we can get going next week. Richard Fant is going to be with us, so we'll look forward to that as well. But hope you've had a great week. We appreciate you as always. We'll be back tomorrow with all that and more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. But until then, Indiana Sports Beat Radio for Jake, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio. Quicksand's got no sense of humor. I'm still laughing like